Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're talking about not settling for less, the importance of valuing your spiritual gifts.
Are you downplaying your magic because it feels a little too out there?
Time to honor your gifts and claim your worth.
Ooh. Has this been a topic that we haven't
It's
talked about before?
I don't think we have. It's a nice one. I like this one. I think we have a tendency, especially like getting into like our spirituality and learning about ourselves, that we tend to downplay our like what we are like working on, I guess. So, what is like a gift that you've not mentioned in conversation because you're worried that it sounds too woo woo and strange?
I love it because there are so many that I don't tell people about because everything I say sounds crazy. I don't even tell people that I do medicine 90% of the time. I don't tell anything, especially people I've just met, because they're like, what? I don't talk about energy. I don't talk about energy healing. I don't talk about sacred medicine. I just talk about like normal conversations. So we don't like get upset with anyone. We don't walk on eggshells with people type of stuff. And then I'll see their reaction. Or I'll see where their head's at. And depending on their answers, I kind of would talk about certain things. But most of the times I keep a lot of these things secret, or I keep this thing like on a need to know basis, because I feel like some of these things when we talk about people and I'm like, yeah, I just did ayahuasca last week, and they're like, I what? What is ayahuasca? Like, what is this? And like literally you can see the whole face like decomposing. I'm like, are you okay? Like, what happened? And they're like, I what is that? And I'm, like, it's, you laugh, but it's the truth. It's crazy funny. So I've seen it so many times, and people, or I'll talk about like energy healing, and they're like, energy, what's energy? And I'm like, well, energy is in everything. Like, like basic, right? Like, let's warm them up a little bit. Yeah. And then you talk about energy in medicine, and now this is a whole other, this is just like, yeah, you don't just, let's, you ain't ready for this. So yeah, how, like, what are the things that you don't talk about, or like you're trying to like avoid, or you keep to a different topic because like people are gonna look at you like you have five heads?
Hopefully, they don't see my five heads. One for every role. Um, for me, I try to stay conscious of who like I'm around, right? So if I'm around uh a person that's, I'm gonna put it out there, very religious, like heavy into it, I don't bring it up. I don't talk about it. I don't mention it. If I am going to talk about like something that I'm working on or along that line, I would keep it more like if I'm talking about what I'm putting into my body. So nurturing myself and nurturing my body, not really talking about my spirituality. But I'm not gonna lie, I love to drop it. I'm just like, they're like, oh, Kiki, what do you do? I was like, oh, well, I'm a Reiki master. And then I just look at them. I'm like, okay, you want to talk? You want to have a conversation about me being a Reiki master and what that entails? And it's trying, it kind of gets the conversation going. And we'll talk about like me being in within my intuition and everything. And like you said, dealing with energy and how to uh, focus on that and really lean into it. But I'm cautious about who I talk or have conversations with. So if you're that person who's like, oh my God, you are talking the devil's language. And I'm like, I'm gonna need you to take a step back. This is not what it's about. Do not put words in my mouth. The way that you have decided that you want to honor yourself, your spirituality, your religion, that is all up to you. It is your prerogative. You can do that all you want to, but don't cast an eye on me. I do like to plant the seed and sprinkle it a little bit. I like to create chaos every once in a while because it's fun.
I agree on the chaos. I agree. I do. I
Yep.
love that because, here where I am in Mexico, it's a very touristy area. Right now, it's a slow season, so thank God. But like again, I hang out with a lot of my friends who are in my community, and so we talk a lot about ceremonies and spirituality and Reiki and energy and all that. So that's normal for us to talk about. But when we go out in places and people are there and there's people that we don't know, sometimes we won't talk about those things. And then sometimes we kind of like I've dropped bombs. I've dropped a little seeds here and there just to see people's reaction. And you'll have people that are like interested, and then you'll have others that be like, I don't know. This is such like why? like, yeah. So like, okay, cool. So I know I would not be talking about those people. I would not be talking to those people about anything. I'll be like, adios, I gotta go. Because when I look at my human design type, I'm a manifester and I'm a fire starter. So I like to fire, I like to initiate things, right? Like I like to get things going and started. And so if I can't initiate to people certain things, for me, I feel like, what's the point? Like I don't even want to talk to you. You're not fun. You're not my cup of tea. So why would I, right?
No, I feel you on that. Like you start the conversation and you're like, okay, I'm gonna feel this out. This is not calling to me. So it was really nice talking to you. I'm like, vamos, let's go.
Like throwing out the big peace signs, like, you're enough for me. Guts to go. Adios. Like totally. Yeah. 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 For sure. Definitely. Yeah. That's crazy. But it's funny. It's funny that you do the same thing that I do because there is part of me that's kind of like, let's poke the bear a little bit just to see where they're at. Um,
It is fun to poke the bear.
yeah, it is. I do like that. What do you feel like your healing energy or like your intuitive gift has like helped you help others? How do you feel like that has happened?
I think you and I have talked about it in like like in our conversations and stuff like that. I always seem to reach out to people. I always seem to reach out to people randomly. Just like randomly, I will reach out to them and they're like, "Oh my god, Kiki, how did you know I needed to talk to you?" Or, "Oh, I've been going through this and I just didn't." And then that will just spark the conversation of how I'm going to be able to help them. Our friend Barbara wasn't feeling well, and we already had this conversation as well. I've been really bad with catching up on conversations. They were like, "Hey, Kiki, can you talk?" And I'm like, "No, I'm working," or "No, I'm doing this," or "I'm doing that. I'll follow up with you," or I'll call you back later, or I'll message you later. And then I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm a horrible friend. I haven't talked to this person. I told them I was gonna like call them back like right away or as soon as I have some free time, and obviously I don't have any free time at that point. But then I follow up or I contact them and they're like, "Oh my god, I haven't been feeling well." She's been like packing up her situation and everything. So like she didn't have all of her cooking supplies and everything. So she was like, "Oh, I haven't been feeling well. I've been coughing. I've been running a fever. I've been feeling it's just awful." So what did I do? I went ahead. I made some of my specialty because that I swear to God, I live and breathe by it. My uncle wasn't feeling well as well. He had a bad cough. The second I was like, "Listen, I need you to boil the ginger. I need you to grate up some garlic. I need you to bring that to a boil, add some honey, add some lemon, you'll be right as rain." That's kind of like how my my intuition has kind of like helped others. I always reach out at the right time. Everyone I talk to is like, "Oh my god, Kiki, I was thinking about you. I was thinking about reaching out to you because I've been going through this and I've been meaning to ask, like your input on it." Or I'll reach out to someone and like, "You know what? I've been feeling really shitty," and we'll have a conversation about it, or I'll send them healing for it. I always, I don't know what it is. And yes, no, let me take that back. It's not that I don't know what it is. That's how my intuition works with me. I always reach out at the correct time for those people in order to be able to facilitate what they need.
I was waiting for you to come to that realization that it's not that you don't know. It's just that you do know, you're just not listening to yourself. Okay, carry on.
Very true. It's that reprogramming. Yes,
And we all do that. FYI, this is a perfect example of Kiki getting into that mindset, thinking something like, I don't know. And we all do that because we get caught because the monkey mind catches up with us.
it does. It does catch up with you. It is like a reprogramming kind of situation. You're always. I've found myself recently having these conversations, especially with like my mom, about the ways that we see things or that we phrase things, and just kind of like working on that. How has your intuition, because I've shared this one about my intuition and just like reaching out to people, how has that like come up in your life?
I have a few of those. Very similar but different stories, not like when people are sick. By the way, isn't that one of the stories that you posted a few weeks ago that you were dropping off at the front porch a soup, a bag of soup or something? Okay, I figured. I was like, I wonder who she's dropping that off, but I didn't know it was for her. Okay, so well, I'm glad she's feeling better. Uh Stalker moment. um
Technically, it's not stalking because I put it out there for the entire world to
I
see. But
know. Well, it's true, but the fact that I know who it is, it's stalkering. Anywho, let's go back to the topic. How did I realize my intuitive gift or my healing energy actually helped others? Well, for me, it started really young actually. Like my and I kind of talked we talked about this in like a few past episodes, but like I had gotten my gift at a really young age when and I know this is like the craziest story and I'm not going to re-say the story, but like I was around like 14, 15 years old with my best friend trying to kill herself and I felt it. And that was like my first real like extreme experience and I was like, what is happening? Then I moved to United States and then I was with my partner for about 5.5 years. And even though we weren't together anymore, I had a very strong link with him still because we were still friends afterwards. And I felt a lot of things that were going on. And I remember we're having like weird dreams about him and his mother and stuff like that. And I was reaching out to him. I was like, hey, is everything okay? And then that was happening. And when I talked to him, he was like, no, this is what's happening. And I was like, oh my God, okay. I forgot what it was. And then a couple of months later, I had this friend who's a wakeboarder. And I don't know, something the energy was weird, and I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, are you all right?" And he was like, "No, I broke like 3 of my ribs wakeboarding." And I was like, "Oh my god." Like so I've had this gift over time where I've always had this intuitive hit or like this intuitive like just this knowing that something was happening. Um and now even like remember the cat that we used to have at the crystal store? You remember what happened to her? And I knew something was gonna happen to her. I kept saying, like, if I'm not because I was supposed to adopt this cat from the crystal shop that we went to school at, because this is also a school and a shop. And I was supposed to adopt that cat, and eh, it was a hard time for me to get the cat because of not politics, but because of like people that were working there that were attached to the cat and whatnot. And I kept having this weird sensation that something was gonna happen to the cat, and I didn't wanna say it because I was worried that if I said it was gonna manifest. But I didn't know if it was me and this is how I learned that this is not manifestation. Because 'cause I'm like, "How do I know if this is intuition versus manifestation?" Right? That was one of the moments I learned the difference, and I was like, "Oh my god," because I kept having all this, like, weird knowing about the cat that something was gonna happen, and I was worried every time I was thinking about that, I was like, "Oh my god, am I manifesting this? Am I creating this?" And then when she died, she got ran over by a car in the street right in front of the store, and when we found out that happened, I was like, "Oh my god, I should have adopted her." And then I spiraled and I was like, "Oh my god, did I manifest this?" And no, it was me having premonitions, it was me having visions, it was me knowing that something was gonna happen or I was adopting her. And literally what I didn't want to happen happened. And I was like, wow. So this was like one of those moments. And I've had moment with death already happening 3 times where I've called on the thing literally to the T that somebody was gonna die, and sure enough, it's happened. And the cat being the third incident that's happened. One or the other person was my grandmother, so that was like really that was really intense. So these have been my gifts have been like evolving over time, and went from my childhood best friend that's trying to take her life to accidents happening left and right, so weird things happening. So not necessarily when people are sick, but when things are getting iffy for people and I'm feeling the weird vibration, or death. And then relationships. This last few years has been about relationship, when my girlfriends are getting with men that they're with and my friends are too good for the man is usually narcissistic or very, very not good man. I can pick up on it like this. I have this radar and I will tell my friends exactly what's going on. They don't like to hear what I have to say. A couple months later, a year later, they'll call me back and they'll be like, "You're right. This is exactly what happened." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and this has happened like 4 or 5 times in the last 3 years already. And I'm just like, and believe me, I hate that I know this, and I don't even like to use the word hate because it's such a strong word, but like I don't even like to have that knowing of truth that I know what's going to happen. I hope that I'm wrong when I say that to my friends, because it's such a shitty feeling to tell somebody that you know that the man that she's in love with or she thinks is the right one for her is not the right one. I hate to break people's dreams by saying that. When in any other situations in relationship wise, I am pushing my girlfriends to be like, "Yeah, go get her. You're a dream. You can do it." Da, da." Like I'm the one that's pushing people. Like I'm the cheerleader pushing my friends. And you can ask all my female friends, and they'll be like, "Yeah, like she's Naya is a cheerleader in the corner. That's like you don't have it. I got you. Like that's Naya." But when it comes to relationship for my friends, telling them that that man is not for them breaks my heart because I wish that I didn't see that and I wish I was wrong. And so far, it's not been a pleasant gift to be like, "I'm so sorry, babe. This guy is just not right for you." It sucks. It really fucking sucks. So there are some gifts that are great and there's some gifts that suck. Seeing death is not pleasant, and telling your friends that the man that they're in love with is not the right man, it's a sucky time. But somebody's got to have that work, right? Somebody's got to do the dirty work. Apparently, I'm one of them. So that has been my healing energy. Is it helping others? It's been in an odd way. It's been for sure. Um, yeah.
I mean, I feel like we were talking about it, and we were sometimes we can't coddle our friends with information, and it might not be the best information that they're going to hear. And like I, depending on who I'm talking to, I will ask them. I'd be like, okay, so do you want the sugar coated Kiki version of it, or do you want the I'm gonna get down to business version of it? Because I can give you both. Are you just asking me to like stroke your ego, or are you asking because you genuinely want my input in what's going on right now? Because the person that's in it doesn't under or can't see what's going on outside. So which one you want? I'll give you both. I'll give you which one you want. All right. And then I'll let you know that I've given you the sugar coated version, and just come see me again in a month and tell me how you're feeling about the situation. Like, are you still there? So do you want to have this conversation now? Cuz I'm going to give you all the business.
I do kind of similar than you. With my friends, and like they'll tell me they'll tell me whatever, and I'm waiting for them to be like, "What do you think I should do?" Like like the question at the end, right? Like I'm waiting for that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm like, Do you want my opinion?" Or like, would you want me like, I'm glad that you told a story. Like, do you feel better now? Because venting is a thing, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, do you feel better? Do you want me to do something about it? Like, do you want my opinion or do you want me to go into like, do you want my opinion as a friend, or do you want me to tap into one of my gifts and to see what I'm feeling from what you just shared, because that can get pretty deep. Are you ready? And so I asked that because before I used to give this to my friends, and they used to be like, Naya, sometimes I just want you to like just listen and be there for me. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And that's something I had to learn. No, because I used to give it, and it's funny, but like it used to be something I used to give for free before to people. People were like, Naya, sometimes I'm just saying something and I just want you to be there and emotionally be there for me and support me to what I'm going through. Maybe I didn't ask for that 2 cents. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. My bad. So now over the years, and this was like, before I left United States, before I moved to Mexico, but this was like a time where I was like, you know what? It's right. I should respect what my friends want, or I should respect what the other person wants. Maybe they're not ready to hear it. They didn't ask for it. Maybe they're not there yet. Sometimes I poke a little bit just to see if they want to hear it. Like if like obviously I'm not doing that to be mean or nothing, but I'm just poking to see like maybe they're open to it, they just don't know it yet, just so I could break the veil or like pass through the veil a little bit. Because sometimes they say they aren't, they're just in a vulnerable place, which happens often. But sometimes being in a vulnerable place is not a bad thing because you're open to receive, you're open-minded, you're open to receiving. And so sometimes it's kind of nice to kind of sneak it a little bit in. And I know it sounds a little bit like weird to do that, but it works. Obviously don't kick them when they're down, right? Let's not add more fuel to the fire. That's not what I'm saying. But like if you see that there is a limit where they're vulnerable, but like they're still open to hearing what you have to say, or they're open to hearing to what the gift is coming through, or what is being said, or what the friend wants to say, then I think you can share, but obviously ask permission first. And that's what I'm working on. That's what I've been working on a lot, has been to ask permission. Do you want to hear what I have to say? Do you want me to share as a friend, or do you want me to get it from one of my gifts? Because if that's the case, I will share what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling. And you may or may not like what's coming through, but this is what I'm feeling. And I felt like that has been a better, it's been better to ask the question than just going and sharing without other people's approval first.
So would you say that's like setting a boundary to like protect your gift?
Yes. Well, protect my gift is one, but also to like, if they're to meet them where they're at, also respect them as well. I think there's a respect boundaries on both ends. Also, like if I start sharing about gifts and intuitions and like things that I'm feeling and sensing and seeing, I also feel like if I'm sharing and they're not ready to hear, I'm leaking energy. I'm then leaking my energy for something they're not ready to receive. And I don't think that it's fair to me that I'm sharing all these things if they're not ready, if they're not open minded or ready to hear what I have to say, right? So I don't want to spend my time, my energy explaining these things if they aren't ready, because they're going to be like, Naya, I love you. Thank you for what you just said. But today I ain't got time for this. My mind isn't there yet. And I respect that. And so so it is a boundary, yes, but it's a boundary for me, not leaking energy, not oversharing. They're not, and a boundary for them because they're not ready to hear it. So those are multiple boundaries essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel the same way about it. Like creating that boundary for yourself and for others. Like if I'm in a situation and I'm having the conversation or I'm giving them information and I pick up on the energy that I'm receiving, that's kind of like saying, Kiki, I really don't want to hear this right now. I stay quiet and then I change the topic and we move on to something else. I'm like, okay, I understand. This is not what you're wanting to hear right now. This is not the time nor the place for us to have this conversation. So we can move on and talk about anything else that you want to talk about. Or if there is something else that's going on within the vicinity. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just kind of pivot and we do something else instead. So I like creating that space for myself and for others.
Don't you love when you look at their face and they're looking and they're just like so confused in their face and you're just like, "Oh, I know I went too far." Like you're like you know you went too far and they're just like, "What the fuck is she talking about?" Like I am not there. I love that. But it happens to me, and these moments tend to happen to me when I'm driving with my friend in the car. I don't know what it is about driving and having channeling moments because it happens to me often. And because I'm driving, I'm looking at the road. I'm not looking at my friend and seeing like, is she getting the message? Like I'm not like paying, but I see how quiet they get, and I just do a glimpse. I'm like, oh, she ain't having it. Never mind. We're changing topic. So I find that to be kind of funny that these moments happen to me mostly when I'm in the car, and it does happen when I'm also like sharing, like my friends are over or we're by the fire, whatever, and I'm looking, I can see their faces, and I'm just like, yeah, they're their energy says they don't want it. We're not gonna go there today.
When it's driving, I call it like a one track mind. Like if I'm on my way home and I'm like, oh, I have to stop off at the grocery store to pick something up, but on the way to the grocery store, my house is first, depending on the route that I'm taking. I drive home first, and I'm like, well, guess I'm not going to the supermarket. I feel like that's how it is. Like we get in once we're in the car, we're driving, and we're like in it. It's just a one track mind, and you kind of have to go, oh, okay, yeah, no, that I'm gonna move on to something else now. So I understand that.
Yeah. But I also noticed that like being in the car driving for me puts me in a trance. I was in a 5-day trance, complete trance. This meditative state. I love driving. It puts me in this state of mind where like obviously I'm paying attention to the road because I don't get in accidents, but like I'm so alert, but yet I'm in that trans mind where like I'm not even thinking of like what's going on in 3D. Like yes, I can drive fine. I'm not so much into the logical mind, which is interesting to talk about. Maybe we should do a podcast. We should do an episode on that in the future because that's interesting to
Oh, definitely.
talk about that. Yeah.
So we've talked about like the trans state and everything. Is there like an affirmation or like a mantra that, especially in times like those, that remind you that like you're worthy and you have value and you deserve recognition?
No. I don't think so much of a affirmation. No, I don't know if I would say so much an affirmation. There there is something that I say, but I call it more of like a blessing, I guess. And depending on what kind of like recognition it is or what kind of value, like for example, I've been on this detoxing liver and kidneys, and I've been on it for like 50 days now. And one of my food that I like often that I like to have is pizza. And I actually had pizza like last night. And believe it or not, before I actually ate the pizza, which I hadn't had in over 50 days, I didn't just go and start eating the pizza. I kind of looked at the pizza and I've done a blessing on it and saying, like, you know what? Like, I'm eating very clean right now and it's going to continue to be like this for a while. And instead of like just eating and thinking of the thought patterns that I used to have when I was younger, I would be like, okay, I am eating this pizza to remember where I was back in the days, like to bring back these memories of where I was. So kind of like doing a blessing or like a prayer on the food to honor my body that like even though it is a junk food and pizza that we're talking about, I'm trying to think of like how can I do this in my gifts. Friends call me and they're like, "Yeah, you were right," or saying these things. I honor back and I say, my blessing, like saying like, wow, thank you so much for sharing these signs with me and allowing myself to trust myself. So I come up with something like right away. Like I'll come up when I'm aware of it, I'm like, oh wow, okay, like this is what's happening, this is what's going on, yada yada yada. And I take it from there and I make the mantra or the affirmation. For me, it's more like a blessing or a prayer. I'll make that and I'm like, when I realize, I'm like, oh wow, okay, like I helped that person with this, and I'm taking into consideration of X, Y, and Z. I found that to be for me helpful. But are you doing affirmation? Are you doing mantras? How does that work for you?
I think sometimes it's like a mixture. It depends on like what's going on and whatnot in my life. There's a singer influencer. I don't really know what they are, but they produce music, and I mainly watch his his stuff because when he does his videos, his hair does this floppy thing when he dances up and down and just kind of goes like this. I'm like, does anybody else just look at your videos just for the hair? Because that's what I tend to do. but he had a recent one where it's talking about like I'm a magnet. What I, like what I want in my life is what I'm attracting, and to help me remind myself to be, not to sound like everybody else out there, but to remind myself to be vibrating on a higher frequency, because it's it's kind of like what you're consuming, right? So it's what you're, or not consuming, it's what you're trying to embody. So I am trying to embody the fact that I am abundant, and the things that I am doing are going to attract more abundance into my life, better people into my life, better conversations in my life, to to build value, to build the community that we're building, and just recognizing that it is partially, you are manifesting what you want that outcome to be. So it really depends on the situation that is at hand. I might do a mantra, I might do an affirmation, I might just kind of sing something happy to help that along. That's kind of like what I do. Singing is definite. It always goes back to music for me. Always goes back to music. Uh, Before we jumped on this, for whatever reason, I needed to listen to "I'll Make a Man Out of You" from the Mulan movie. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. That was what Spirit told me to sing at that point, so I sang it. I had to listen to it.
You know why. We're going to stop with that conversation, but you know why. But we've named the gifts we often hide, explored how they've already served others, and set simple boundaries to protect our energy.
Choose one of your gifts you've minimized, write it down, speak it aloud, and watch how your confidence shifts.
If this inspired you, leave us a review so more people learn to honor their magic.
And share it with someone who needs that boost. As always, stay weird.
And stay wild. We'll see you on the next one.